All right, so good evening, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. Before we get started, I honestly just wanted to say thank you once again for coming out to the show. This is something that I've been wanting to do for a really long time. I've been telling them for probably months at this point. But yeah, we're here now. For those of you who aren't familiar with myself, my name is Brian Crawford. I'm a cinematographer and photographer here in Chicago. I do work all across the country, though. I also own a production company, Ambitious Stars LLC, which is also a part of this. The goal of this podcast and my brand in general is to serve as a platform to educate and highlight people's stories. This podcast falls under both. Coming up as a freelancer, there were a lot of obstacles I went through and still continue to go through that I wish I had more help with. And so this podcast will serve as a resource for some of those things that I struggled with throughout my career. For this episode, we will be talking about actually starting a business as an individual and from a partnership standpoint. To help me out with this, I have some really special people here with me today. Nolis, Alina, and Michael started South Facing Windows back in the summer of 2019. Since then, they have had many big artists, brands, movements come through their space, including Chance the Rapper, Joe Freshgoods, Nez, Pivot Gang, and many more. South Facing Windows has been a safe space for artists to come in and create without limitations. South Facing Windows has also been a pillar in the community for over 3 years now. Back in 2020, they offered free studio time to Black artists to allow them to create without the financial worries during what was and still is a tough time for Black creators. While many studios are sometimes money hungry and unconnected with the art community, South Facing Windows continues to change the narrative by putting the art first and business second. South Facing Windows has had their AIR program running for over a year now to give people the chance to bring their ideas to life by giving them a space to unleash their creativity free of charge. Although they all have their own careers individually, they came together to create something special. Let's welcome Nolis, Alina, and Michael. How you guys feeling?
Great. First and foremost, we need that. Whatever you just said, we need that for our website.
Our new
Yeah,
bio.
do you want to do our copy or?
You described that amazingly. So, no, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we're just gonna hop right in. Before we do get started, though, I do want to say thank you once again. I know I said thank you a lot, but we will be hoping to do this every month. We already have next month show ready and up. We're going to be talking to an accountant by the name of Alex. He goes by Alex on Financial. And essentially, we'll be talking about taxes. Tax time is coming up, and I wanted to bring in someone who could give us knowledge on what a lot of freelancers don't know about, things that could help, things that could save you some money, and other things like that. That will be happening on, February 18th at the same time, so 6 p.m. So yeah, if you guys, want to come out and learn more about accounting and taxes and stuff like that, please feel free to come out. But let's hop in. So I want to start off talking about the origin story of the studio, how you guys came together to actually start the studio.
Yeah, I think having done a lot of studio shoots, we were doing them primarily at your place in your loft in Pilsen.
Yeah, I had a loft in Pilsen that I was using for personal creative projects, and then one day it just wasn't available. So we're like, okay, do we make it into a business? Do we do something more official than just shooting out of my space? And then we went on a search, and we're like, okay, who wants to be a part of this studio? And we literally were downstairs at the taco place and just kind of went for it.
Yeah, I mean, it was after several weeks of working with a real estate agent in commercial real estate and being shown, because we at the time we still wanted to do studio work, and it was something that we were all learning collectively at the time as well. And we wanted to have a space dedicated for that, where we could leave our equipment, we could work with other people and friends of ours, that were into the idea, and kind of just like as a group, find a space that we liked. So we were working with a commercial real estate agent. We were searching around because it's if you try to like search for business space in Chicago, it's a really, not such an easy thing to really look for. So anyway, they were helping us out, but they were showing us like all these crazy properties in West Loop and Fulton Market that were, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month in rent. And you're just like, I don't know who you think you're dealing with right now, but like, we can't afford that. So, but the same agent showed us this building, and the price was perfect. Everything was still pretty new at the time, because this building for many years was just a dilapidated, like abandoned place, and this company bought it, I think from the city of Chicago, and they gutted it, renovated it, and opened it up as like just commercial rental properties. So I think like when we all, because Nolis, you were looking with us at that point, and we were all here together looking at it, and I think we were just all like collectively, like this is the one that we want to go after. So
yeah, I just remember. I mean, I've been through like a few studios in my career. Like I was at Lacuna and was at a couple other spots, and eventually I was just kind of just shooting out of my guest room in my house.
I shot
for a
in
while.
that guest room.
A lot of people shot.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. A lot of shoots happen in that back room that you would never think happened back there. But so yeah, at that point, I just had all my gear and stuff back there, and I was definitely like intrigued for looking for a spot. And I remember Mike and Lena hit me up and was like, "Yo, we're looking for a place," and then they came here and they showed me this spot. It was still like gutted, like the walls weren't even up or anything. But I was just like, "Yo," I was like, "I'm down." So I think just me being so into it and them already looking for a place as well just kind of made it that much easier. Like we've known each other, like we've been in business with each other for 3 years, but we've known each other for
a long time,
a decade plus. Mm-hmm. So we're like good friends beyond, working together with the studio. So I think that just that trust and that friendship that we had also just made kind of things a much smoother process, and just kind of figuring out if getting this space would work. So and now we've been here for about 3 years, over 3 years, and we're on
coming
our
up
second list. Yeah,
we're coming up on the 5th year.
What?
I think.
No,
fourth year.
Yeah,
fourth
fourth
year.
year.
Okay, fourth.
We're coming up on our fourth.
No.
It feels like 5.
Yeah, we're coming up on our 4th year in July.
Yeah.
And we just actually renewed our lease, so we'll be here for another 3.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I got ahead of myself a little bit. I want to get you guys' background, kind of like the conception of you guys actually meeting and like what led you guys here. So starting with Nolis, if you can tell us how you got into photography, and essentially what led you to South Facing Windows.
Yeah, I mean, I always have my little interesting story. Basically, I started out as a pharmacist. So basically, I went to grad school for pharmacy, and at the same time I got into pharmacy school, I actually started doing photography as well as a hobby, because back then I just didn't think you can even back then I didn't even know you can even make a career out of being a photographer back then. So I was just doing it for fun. I had always been in like the art scene when I was younger. I went to Kenwood and Hyde Park, and I kind of hung around with like a lot of the folks who was at this streetwear store called Leaders 1354. They used to be in Hyde Park, and I basically kind of grew up through them, and that's kind of where I met a lot of my friends and a lot of my peers nowadays. So I did the pharmacy thing for a few years, as well as doing photography on the side, just just with my network of people that I knew. I was able to kind of do that, and then just like in between looking for another pharmacy job, I just kind of started doing my photography more seriously since I had the time to, and it kind of just snowball affected into what it is today. And that was like 9 years ago now. So yeah.
Yeah. Nolis is a Chicago legend, as all of these people are. But Michael?
Yeah, I think similar to Nolis too, photography always been a hobby of mine for a long time, since high school, and I stuck through it. So my career is in tech. Specifically, I do site reliability engineering. So it's a whole nother story. We won't get into that, but photography had always been sort of like this companion or this like artistic expression that I could have, always available to me. So like all throughout college, I would always do like photo classes and things like that. And after college and while I was working, my career really started in up until this year had always been in creative agencies. So I started off at an agency that was owned by Ogilvy. I worked at Leo Burnett for many years, and then I worked at a digital agency for 6 years after that. So I was always in a place of like where creativity was, not rewarded, but everybody had their own like passions outside of work, which was really cool. And mine was photography. So even at Leo, I would get picked to do like certain projects with their in-house production team, which was pretty cool. So I've always had this like two sides. Like one's in tech, and that's my career, and photography is also like I'm a freelancer and do a lot of projects in that world, and also running a studio. So it's kind of like this trifecta of things that I'm passionate about that I get to continue to do and also work full time. So I feel like I'm rambling, but that's yeah.
Yeah, I moved to Chicago about 13 years ago to go to Columbia College and study photography. That's what I really, really wanted to do. I actually didn't have any other ideas for what I wanted to do, so I just did that. And then after college, I just always like assisted people for a while, tried to find my own clients. At first, it was kind of like, okay, what am I doing? Don't know what direction I'm going, so I tried different styles of photography. Did a lot of travel and just photographed everything, and then kind of got back to really thinking that portrait and like just working with people was kind of my thing. And that's how I got the loft in Pilsen, and I really wanted to practice more portraits. And that kind of left, after I didn't have the loft anymore, that kind of left to the search of the studio. So that's how we got here.
Nice. So starting this out, because I feel like with starting anything, there are things that you never expect that come up. So what were your expectations going into this process while starting the studio, whether good or bad, and how did they match up to the actual experience?
I think for me personally, I guess like I knew when we started this, like it was not going to be self-sufficient for a while, at least, when it started out, which it wasn't. And that's like, that's totally normal. I learned a lot about negotiating and what to look out for in commercial leases. I feel like it's just not so many great experiences led to a lot of absorption of knowledge in that regard. But I think those like are the two things. Like we knew it wouldn't be self-sufficient for a while, and sort of like working through that. Was one of the things.
Yeah, I think it was tough for like maybe like the first year. It was tough for like the first year, I think, because we started in July of 2019, and we didn't really have any clientele or anything like that or members. So yeah, basically we were running red for like the first year. We were basically paying out of pocket for the rent and things of that nature, and then and that was for the first 6 months, and then after that. COVID? No, it wasn't the first 6 months. It was like the first, because when did all of the, like the protests and racial injustices with the George Floyd, and that happened that summer of 2019.
That was our second year.
Was it the
I
next
think
summer?
it was the summer of the second year.
Yeah.
So we had COVID in 2020, which basically shut us down for a few months.
Yeah.
And we still had to pay rent. And then all of that happened in that summer, which also had its effects on us, good and bad. I think silver lining out of that was I think we had the expectations of we wanted this to be a space for people to come and use it, and I think with all of that happening, that kind of gave us the opportunity, I think, to make that jump and actually do something more impactful. So like when we did the For the Free project, which was during that summer, and we basically gave we gave Black artists just free studio hours here. So because we know just at that time it wasn't a lot of work going on in the city, and it wasn't a lot of things that happened. And so we were just like, yo, if you guys have a project that you want to work on that you're getting paid for and you need a space, you can use it. Or if you just want to come and just use the space just to kind of get your mind off of everything, because everything was just so stressful at that time, we kind of made this studio that kind of space for like the entire summer. I think we had like over 40 people and like over 100+ hours of like studio time that we kind of gave away that summer. So,
and I love that program because like I thought it was a great idea. I just didn't realize like how many people would actually hit us up and you know, want to shoot a project in the space.
Yeah, and then that kind of blossomed, and then after that it kind of, well, obviously that wasn't sustainable because us three have our own businesses outside of the studio as well. So it's no way we can just, because it was like 3 or 4 people. It was like 3 or 4 bookings like a day for like the whole summer.
And we
crazy.
were talking about like we should put them all together.
It was
and
crazy.
like
It was crazy.
In and out all
but
day. You know?
That project blossomed into what is now our artist residency now. So so I think our expectations of what the studio is, I mean, some of it has come true. I think we're still kind of looking, you know, to find some other like future endeavors in regards to kind of like what we want to bring to the space.
Yeah.
But so far, I think it's been pretty successful.
Yeah, and I mean, like going into it was really, you know, the okay, we're good. So you know, when it started, I think we all had the mindset is like, okay, we want a space, you know, where we can do our own projects. And then we started the membership program, and we had a few members that, you know, because 3 of us in a 2,300 square foot space, it sat empty a lot of the days, and you know, we wanted to have more creatives and more friends utilize the space. So we had a membership program for a while, and that worked really well. You know, and then we started gaining some recognition as like a production space. So, you know, a lot of other productions and, you know, people doing shoots and needing places, you know, to do those shoots started reaching out to us and booking the studio. So what our goals were and what our ambitions were kind of just like always changing and always evolving, and still are, you know, to this day, of what we want the space to be and what we want it to accomplish for Chicago. So, or creatives in Chicago more specifically, but yeah.
Yeah, so going back, talking about your AIR program, I know you guys wanted to have a space where people can come in and create, but what essentially led you guys to doing that, and what has what's the word? What has the response been to the AIR program?
I honestly don't remember exactly how we came up on like the idea that we wanted to do the AIR program. Was it really after For the Free, or was it before?
I think it was. I think we talked about it, but I think For the Free kind of it made more sense after that. It was just like, you know, because we wanted to because we enjoyed, or we were very happy with the turnout for it. So we wanted to keep that going in a way that was sustainable.
Right.
So I think we came up with the AIR project and was like, okay, we can't have 1,000 people here all the time.
No.
But we can have at least one person come in here once a month. We give them, you know, a specific amount of hours to come into the studio free of charge and work on a particular project that they are passionate about. And, you know, once they complete it, we would help to put it out there and promote it on our social channels as well. Just to kind of give other artists in Chicago the opportunity just to be seen. So, I mean, it's not even a situation where we'll put it just on the South Facing Windows social. Like, we'll put it all on our individual social media accounts as well, which kind of just helps spread and networks it out anymore. So I think the benefit of it we just wanted to give, you know, other younger creatives an opportunity just to have a space to just work on a project where normally you can't. Like, for instance, like back when I was saying I was working out in my back room. Like, you can only do so much in small spaces like that. So we wanted them to be able to like see this type of space and interact with different resources, just like even like our 8x8 diffusers or our V flats and just things that are just too big to really just have in smaller back room or like DIY kind of studio spaces in your house. So just having this space and all of this natural light, I just think we just wanted to bring that to other creatives. So
Yeah, and it started off like we didn't even advertise it. We had this guy Gonzalo hit us up. We just had it on our website, and I think people are looking for that. People are always looking for an opportunity to have an artist in residence. And he just hit us up and he's like, "Hey, I want to be your artist in residence." We're like, "Oh, really?" Like we never even
I published the
advertised this
page,
was a
like,
thing, and
3
we just
days
like,
ago.
"Hey, come on in." And then after him, I think consistently we had one person a month. We just get so many emails about it, and so many people want to be part of it, which is really, really cool. I think that's it's been a really successful program. I think right now we have people lined up all the way till May, so it's just constantly. We had a girl this winter. She's coming in from Minneapolis, and she just heard about it. She used to live in Chicago. She heard about it. She's like, "Hey, I'll be here for a week." She has a really cool film project. I'm like, yes, people are hearing about it, so that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And we didn't even do that much, call for submissions or anything. It's just kind of organically.
yeah, it's kind of
evolved,
running itself now, which is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But we do want to reach out to artists that do other types of medias. You don't have to just be a photographer. You can be a painter. You can be a dancer, yoga instructor, whatever art that you have. If it's something that we feel like it works well in the studio space, we're open for
Yeah.
that as well. So
I'd like to do ceramics here, but
ceramics would be hard, actually.
Right. But we don't have a kiln, or we don't have anything to
Ceramics
make
would be
that
super
work.
hard, yeah.
But I mean, I think about it too when I was starting out with studio work, and I remember the first time I used strobes and shot in someone's space, and just how important having a space was to what I was trying to do. Which I didn't really think about when starting the art program, but I mean it has a huge tremendous value to somebody that doesn't have a whole lot of experience working in a studio or working with this equipment and wants a comfortable place to learn that in, because if all we can provide is a space and some equipment, great, but we're also resources in the air program. We'll come help you set up some lights and show you how to use it, and set up some backdrops for you, and they may have never set up a backdrop before and don't know how to do it. So the space is an asset for them, but we also want to be assets for people in that program that come through the space.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really fun to see what people create here.
Yeah.
That's my favorite part. I'm always emailing people "Hey, what have you shot? I want to post it. I want to share what you've done here." It's exciting to me, and I think it's exciting.
I can say she's not lying. She hits me up to post stuff all the time, and I'm pretty sure it's the same for you guys.
Yeah.
But what's the selection process like for the AIR program, and what are you guys looking for people who might be watching in the room today?
Yeah, I think if you're just an artist, it could be film, video, it could be photography, even traditional artists. We had someone do traditional art here. She would take photographs and then she would paint from photographs. So we're pretty much open to any form of art. The submission process is pretty easy. You just write us an email stating what you want to do. It doesn't have to be very formal. It could be loosely based, or you can just say something like, "I just want to practice photography on a couple of models." We're not looking for for you to have an idea or a concept, because I know that a lot of people don't work, with concepts, so it's not that formal. So if you just email us and tell us you want to use the studio, and then I usually keep a track of all the emails, and then when you have open months, I'll just kind of hit people up and "Hey, how's May?" or "How's June?" and then kind of line up people that way. So it's nothing anything formal. It's pretty casual. Just hit us up if you want to use the studio, and then we can see where we can fit you in.
Cool. I also wanted to say we will have a portion where you guys can come up and ask a question if you guys want to. So write your questions down. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is kind of how do you guys decide how you want to price your space? I know you said for a year, you guys were kind of just strolling along, and then after the year, you guys started to see some progress. But how do you guys go about pricing the space, and who is your audience for that?
Yeah, I could talk a lot about that. I think
too much.
Anyway,
keep it compact.
We'll compact it a little bit. So it all started back in well, even when I was like thinking about the membership program, I was looking at other studios in Chicago and seeing how they were kind of pricing it out, and a couple places were like you had to like book your days out of the month where you wanted to be in the studio, and I thought that was crazy because, you know, if you get hit up for freelance work, you don't know like, oh, hey, I'm only available for freelance, 3 days out of the month, and these are the 3 days. It doesn't work that way. So I, found this program, this software to like where we could all schedule our time, and everybody would see that time scheduled, so they would know when and who was in the studio when and things like that. And as far as like our hourly rates, that took some experimentation. I think a lot of, more fully fledged production houses in Chicago, obviously they're, are going to charge you by the C stand or by the light stand and by the light, and we're not a rental house. We're a space with some production equipment available. So the only really thing that we really had to decide was what our hourly rate is, that where we can be competitive as like a middle of the road studio for creatives, but not price out people from, even wanting to reach out and try to use it. Right. So what we have here, we provide, some basic necessities for most photo shoots. The only thing that we really charge for outside of the rental is paper, because it's something that you continuously have to replace as it gets used. Depreciated asset, exactly. And it depreciates fast, but that's the only thing we really charge for outside of the hourly rate. And we do get hit up a lot for, some small events too. So we have a different rate and minimum hour, for things like, small events or workshops and things like that. So, and then you'd stack onto that, we started doing weekend rates and, cleaning fees and things like that. Then all these other fees that like PeerSpace rolls into their pricing model as well. So it's not super scientific. It's just seeing what other spaces are doing that are similar, and then bringing to the table what we offer as more than just a space. And I think we found a really good, bed of like this, we're comfortable with that. We've raised it a couple times over the years just to keep up, with our rent that's increasing, and just to make sure that, we're good at the end of the day, or the studio rather is good at the end of the day. So it's like I said, it's not super scientific. It's just seeing what else is out
but
there.
I would say we're still probably one of the better priced studios for our size.
Yeah, for sure.
We were horrendously cheap when we first started.
I know.
For what we
criminally cheap.
Well, yeah, we're getting holes. For what we were offering, I think. But I think also a lot of it comes to do with our location as well. We are a Southside business, so sometimes a lot of companies and a lot of clientele are turned away sometimes
we've had people
from where we're located. I mean, we're not like super far south, but we are on the south side of Chicago, like right down the street from where the White Sox play. So sometimes I feel like that took part, and I think we kept that in mind with our rates as well, just to make sure we could get people here. But I think now we've gotten our name out enough to where we don't have to do that. So I think that's why we had the chance to raise our rates back up a little bit. So
yeah, definitely. Like if we were paying, the rent of some of those other places we looked at, we'd be $300 an hour and minimum of like a 4-hour booking.
Right.
That's an entirely different market of productions that, we don't have a foothold in, so we have to rely on a lot of like word of mouth and apps like PeerSpace that have been super helpful in sort of distributing, us as a space around for people interested in booking. So I think, that was definitely a factor where we are, what our costs of operating this place are, and that all kind of factors into it.
And just keeping in mind, that we know we're creatives too, so we know everybody can't afford super high rated spaces as well. So we also just kept that in mind too when we had those costs. And again, I think that's why we also just kind of implemented the AIR program too, just so we can make sure we have the opportunity just to kind of keep that community aspect in the studio as we grow as a studios.
So going back to the membership, what are some of the benefits to it compared to maybe not having members versus actually having members to maybe help with rent? Or do you guys look at it from that standpoint as far as like, does it go towards rent or does it not go towards rent?
Yeah,
I mean,
100% went towards rent.
I was gonna say that's why we had members in the beginning, because that's when we like really needed to make the rent. But then we actually really liked our members, and we had it became like a community. Like everyone that was here was super chill. So it was kind of bittersweet. I mean, some people moved away, and some people got their own studios, and we still have Brian.
Yes, Brian
is our sole
only
member.
we have left, by the way. So.
Yeah,
well earned.
No, because I think it was a lot of we need to generate income for the space, obviously, but it was more of like people that were in our situation that want to have dedicated space, and want a place to store their equipment and want a place where they can separate their homes from where they work.
And it's like splitting rent though, honestly, because you're not using this every day, so sometimes you don't need to have a studio just for yourself. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, but I mean, even outside of just using this as a place to shoot, it's nice to come here and work for the day, or do some editing or whatever.
I mean, but at the same time, I think we decided to kind of transition away from it, just because I don't think it was really giving us the opportunity to bring in as many creatives as we wanted in the studio. It was kind of turning into a studio space, but kind of just for like us and the members, I think, and then we had some extra time that we can rent out versus kind of where we do it now, where we only have one member, which is Brian, and then we can just rent it out to a variety of people as well as do the AIR program at the same time. So I think initially it helped us just to kind of get through some of the hard times, but now I think it's more beneficial how we do it, how our workflow is now, and it allows us just to kind of bring more people into the studio and expand that network of people that we meet on a daily basis.
To have more people utilize the space,
Gotcha. So if the studio could be remembered for one thing, what would you guys want that to be?
I think just being a space where I think creatives felt welcome. Like we just, we're all like normal people like everybody else. So we at the end of the day, we just wanted to open up a space where we can do our work and we can have people like our homies and stuff come in and get projects done themselves. So, at the end of the day, I just want that to continue to be, with how they see us is just like a welcoming environment where people can come in and just, be themselves and create. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And, I think there's a lot to be said about, a lot of people, at least that I've shot, I work a lot with, music artists in the city through these days. And a lot of the artists that we shoot, it's like their first photo shoot. And, I think it says a lot that they have that experience here in a place that's, like Noah said, very welcoming and just having like a good experience. It being I'm sure as a stressful experience for a lot of people getting their photo taken, but this place has had a lot of those like, first photo shoots, or a lot of like great talent has come through here, and it's always been just like a warm environment for a lot of creative things to happen. So. And our beautiful windows also, we could be remembered for those, I guess. It's in the name. So.
Our windows face south.
Yes.
So.
Someone did ask once, like when they were like touring the space, it's like, where do these windows face? And I was like, it's in the name, man, It's pretty obvious.
Did you guys ever have a different name in mind for the studio
we had a
space?
list. We had a whole
Do
list.
you have
those?
I don't know if I have a list
Please
of names. We
don't.
had a list of names, though. Let me see if I can find it.
It's
Keep
really,
talking.
it's a really terrible
Probably in
list.
my notes.
It's probably in my notes, too. Keep talking, Mike. I'm looking for the notes.
Yeah.
Oh, man. What was the name? I don't even know. They were terrible.
I'm gonna look up in my notes.
We don't,
I think I caught this one, though, right?
the what?
I called South Facing Windows, though, right?
I think
Oh my goodness.
Don't take that away from me, bro. I
please,
did that.
no, we
I
don't.
have a whole list.
Don't take that away from me. You get that?
Go ahead, read it.
Ugh.
10, 10,
Oh, 1010.
10, 10, 10,
210,
210.
10 squared.
Kale,
Very
Kale,
good
Kale
studio.
Corner?
Huh?
Kale Corner? Who
No,
named
10
that?
Did we merge like a shopping list?
I
Yeah,
don't
this is
know.
like, first off, yeah, I see salad bar in here. What is this? This isn't even a thing.
Probably my shopping list. I'm sorry.
Blue, yeah, first off, I don't even know what this is.
Good bridge. Very good studio. Very studio.
I was going off the the very taste.
Studio
Working-
35.
Work in project,
Point
work in
35.
progress, safe for work. Ground Glass Collective, that sounds kind of cool.
LLC.
Studio 35?
Blue
That sounds like a
Couch.
club, bro.
Well,
Yeah, these are
Yeah,
ridiculous.
so South Facing Windows, that was the better option, I think.
yeah, but there was also a situation where we were going to move in this building, and we were talking about if we would keep the name or not.
Yeah.
Would we keep the name if we weren't in this?
I don't think we should lose the name. I think
we lose the name.
the name is going across the city very well, so I think switching it up would be a
That'd be terrible.
mistake. Correct?
Brand suicide.
So speaking of brands, you guys have had a lot of people come through your studio space. I know Nolis has shot a lot of stuff. Michael, Alina, you guys have all shot a lot of bigger brands here in the studio. What does that mean for you guys? And I guess are you guys' selling point for when people come and see your space?
Yeah, I think as if you were doing this professionally, or full time, which 2/3 of us are, but even for the work that I get hit up for, it's a much more professional experience, I guess, for larger clients. Having your own space or your own dedicated space for this work, to even take meetings or like pre-production, things like that. Here, I think is just like signals to clients, that I can trust this person, they know what they're doing, or, if they have their own dedicated space for this work. If you're in a bid for a job, that might be a deciding factor. If they go with you over somebody else that would need to rent their own, space for the production.
That's a good look.
Yeah.
I had a funny story. Like I had a client hire me for a production, and then she's like, "Oh, here's like the 2 studios we're considering, and one of them is like South Facing Windows." And I'm like, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, you get the job and the studio." So it's kind of like you could win more business that way. And you can look at it that way. But yeah, it's definitely like a good look if you have your own studio and you have clients here.
Yeah, no, I mean having the ability to have a studio space like this, just like in your arsenal, just to like throw at the clients when especially when they're like out of town clients. Like I've had a lot of out of town clients reach out like, oh yeah, and then we need to find a blah blah blah, like a space to do it. And I'm like, oh, I already have a studio, and then I'll send them our little link, and they see the inside, and they're like, oh man, it looks fantastic. And yeah, it definitely helps kind of jump you to the front of the line when you're like bidding for projects or things of that nature. But yeah, it just kind of makes you seem that much more legit, honestly. Yeah.
Got you. So I guess another thing that I can ask is with starting the studio, of course, this is a partnership. So what were some things that I guess you guys set boundaries for yourselves, or things that you had to work on as the progress of the studio went on to make sure that this was like an equal thing and you guys all felt essentially equal?
I mean, I feel like I don't think we've ever really had problems with that. Luckily, it's 3 of us, so we definitely do a vote system. So I think that's kind of helped out a lot on just kind of like decisions that we've kind of had to make in regards to just like certain additions to the studio. Like when we were building out our storage room, we were building out our dressing room and getting curtains and things of that nature. I think having that 3-person vote helps, just because obviously somebody's gonna lose. Um, so,
But I feel like we never like disagreed about anything.
yeah, I feel like
I
we're
don't know.
majority on the same page. Mike likes
Yeah.
to buy a lot of stuff,
Yeah,
so
except
sometimes
the budget.
sometimes I have to talk Mike
Nolis
out
is
of.
definitely the,
Mike, I'm the stickler.
conscious of,
Yeah, I'm the
like-
stickler. Mike just likes to spend money. So
Like, Nolis, come on, we could really use.
I'm trying to like, yeah. So Mike
uh,
likes to buy a lot of stuff. So I try to talk him out of things most of the time. Other than that, I don't think we've had too many problems.
Honestly, I think at the level that this studio is, it's super manageable for 3 people. We aren't operationally at a large enough scale where this is becoming a burden to like maintain or run, right?
I mean, although we did get a studio manager to help us.
Right,
with
Lena's
some
been a huge
day-to-day,
help
yeah.
with helping us manage our
And I
bookings
mean,
and our
that all
calendar.
came about because, like, okay, I'm traveling, Nolis traveling, like, we don't want to put everything on Mike to open the studio every day. So it's kind of like, okay, we need like another extra person just to kind of handle the day-to-day. So, but
Yeah. And, and the fact that we were all friends beforehand, we all know each other. We're not,
Yeah.
it's just makes it a much more easy to work, like an easier process for.
I probably think the only thing that we've kind of like talked about the most is probably just like the type of stuff that we book
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
in the
Oh,
space.
yeah.
Just like me, like I see the studio as definitely like a more natural photography kind of space studio. So sometimes we'll get like people requesting bookings for like baby showers and like some type of like birthday parties
yeah,
and
but
stuff
that's
like
when
that.
we're like, okay, Nolis, we have to take this because we have to make rent.
Yeah, they're like, we gotta make rent, and I'm like, but I don't want a
Sure.
hole in my wall,
Yeah.
or like a broken window, which we've
Yeah.
had before,
Twice.
twice.
So we're super selective when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But that's like usually those are the conversations. Hey, are we taking on this little event that could get messy, but like we kind of need the rent money this month or whatever.
And that's sort of, something we decide together. And we can tell, I think we've gotten pretty good at telling right off the bat when bookings come through. It's like,
Okay, this is gonna be a
you
mess.
want to throw a party. Like, let's cut
Oh,
to
you
it.
wanna stay
throw
till
a party.
3 a.m.?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no.
It's like, when does your space close? Can you stay past 10 p.m.? It's like, no, we don't. But, and the thing is like, when we were having a discussion of moving to another space in this building that was a larger space, which would, be a larger rent, we would have to say like, okay, we need to, talk about how do we want to handle these events. We're going to have to, just to be able to pay rent. So this space that we're in now is manageable where, when you first think of it, you think of it as a production space. And that's what we want. We don't want to be thought of as an event space, dedicated event space. But that's not to say that we don't want more things like this. We want more podcasts that are in, creative fields, or we want workshops. We want things that identify in the world of creativity, especially here in Chicago. And we'll get the one-off baby shower every once in a while just to make
yeah,
some
we've,
change.
we've
but-
had good events in here. We've had like book
Oh yeah, we have like book signings.
Like book sign. We've had book signings. We've had yoga sessions.
Like multiple books.
We've had a variety of events in here. It's just we just have to pick and choose based
Yeah.
on how we think it'll turn out. So
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you guys want to have in the space in the future?
yeah, we want an infinity wall. So it's it's like when you're in the studio, it's the wall and it goes like that. And it goes all the way down to the wall, down to the floor. So I think that's probably one of our next biggest additions to the space. And it's just kind of figuring out the logistics of how to accomplish it and pay for it at the same time.
Well,
So
we've talked
pricey.
about it for a while, and it's something I want to do too. It's actually finding someone to do it has been like the biggest challenge.
Well, and
There's
also just getting the building because
the building.
like it's connecting it to the floor and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's ways around that, but like finding somebody that can actually do like the plastering and everything that is required has proven very challenging. And then there's also the conversation of like, this is a rented space too, and do we want to sink $6,000 into a psych wall on a 3-year lease, which are like my goal has always been well, that hasn't always been, but one of my goals for South Facing Windows as a brand is to have like a place that we own, in the future, where that's less of a risk to invest into a space that you own is much better than a space that you rent. So I mean, there's a whole list of things that I want to do in here that the barrier is just a cost, at the end of the day. But I think as for what we have, and we've managed very well for the past 4 years. So.
Yeah, I want to host more community events, so more things like that. If anyone has any ideas, please email me.
If you want to do a
But
workshop
yeah.
at South Facing Windows,
I want to do
reach
yoga
out.
for creatives, workshops, I don't know, lighting classes, anything that anyone can think of. I want that here. So that's kind of my focus for this year.
Oh yeah, and we also just added Diversify Photo to the studio. They're just like a organization across the country that kind of helps to just showcase creatives, people of color creatives. And they're just going to be, and they have like different branches throughout the country, and they're going to be doing their quarterly meetings here at the studio, as I'm also a part of Diversify Photo as well. So we just kind of added that recently as well. So, but yeah, like that type of like community-based thing, and like that Alina was talking about, we definitely want to do more of that and implement that and get more opportunities here at the studio.
somebody's going to have to take on the event programming role of South Facing Windows pretty soon, I think, if we want to scale that stuff up. But air memberships and event programming.
Yeah, so we
director.
kind of we don't do it on purpose, but we kind of split up kind of tasks every once in a while. I feel like Mike's more like the behind the scenes like business money guy.
Operations.
Yeah, operations, that's what you call it. And then me and Alina kind of split between like community based. I think Alina does a lot more of like holding down rentals and like peer space and all that kind of stuff. And I kind of do community based stuff. I mean, I think me and Alina both kind of really do community based stuff. And then I also just kind of, I think I just use my networking to bring more attention to the space. Just with like some of the artists and creatives that I've grown up with. I've had opportunities to do photo shoots and stuff like that with them in the studio, which kind of helps bring more attention to it as well. So we kind of split those tasks up, not really on purpose. I think it's just kind of what our personalities allow us to do best. So
I installed a Nest thermostat,
yeah, he puts up lights and security cameras.
lights and cameras and all that jazz.
I just tell my cool friends to come by and tag us.
And then Lena's helping us out with all the bookings.
Yes, and then we have a
So-
studio manager. Her name is Lena. She helps us out a lot more with like bookings and coming out and helping to like actually open up the studio. Sometimes it can get a little difficult for us to have to come to the studio every time to open up bookings every day. Like I said, like Mike works, and then sometimes me and Alina aren't even in the country. So so having her is very helpful as well. But we've only had her for a couple months, right? September?
Yeah.
From September, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
My bad, Lena.
2 more questions.
That's a couple of months.
So, if someone came up to you guys and just wanted to know how to start a studio, and you had 1 minute to give them a list by list thing of what they should be looking for, what would it contain?
Just make sure the space is manageable. Make sure you're able to cover it yourself. If there's like a situation, where you won't make it like when COVID happened and we were closed for 3 or 4 months, make sure you have the funds to be able to cover the expenses for yourself if you're not able to rent your space out. And I just make sure you kind of have an idea of what you want to do with the space and be able to kind of execute it on as you go.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because to what you said earlier, like my mindset is always in an operational mindset of like, is this like fiscally responsible? Can we achieve it being a self-sufficient space? And it wasn't, for months. And I think that's the best advice, not to, put anybody off, but just, know that first few months may be a lot out of pocket, So are you prepared for that or not? And can you do things like what can you do to lessen that burden? Go into it with a plan. I think our plan kind of like formulated very quickly throughout that process of like, hey, we should probably get our own LLC to do this, and separate bank accounts, and all these things kind of snowballed within like a week. So there's not to say there's no blueprint for any of this. We just saw a space and liked it and signed 3 names on a lease. And
Yes, and
now we have a studio
and split it with friends.
Yeah.
Split it with friends and get a separate business for it specifically.
Protect your assets.
Yes.
Limit your liability as an independent.
Trustworthy friends who will pay rent.
Yeah, pretty much. But but that's not to say like those aren't requirements. You don't have to. If you're savvy enough where you think you can turn it around very quickly, just do it. But it's not expensive to get an LLC in the state of Illinois, and it's not that difficult. And it protects you, and it protects your personal assets and stuff. So why not? But there's no method or script or blueprint.
But you can start off with getting a commercial real estate agent, and they know better spaces than you would find on Craigslist or wherever you're looking. And they can show you around. That's what happened to us. They showed us around a couple of different places. You get a feel for what's going on, how much each place costs, which neighborhood is best for you, location is important. But that would be like the first step. And then, you would just have a sort of a plan on how you're going to pay for the first couple of months.
Yeah. I mean, like
And,
mine was like, I remember just being so flustered and worried about like, can we do that in this space? Like, can we rent out a rented space for, bookings? And I was like, looking back on it now, it's like, yeah, if that's your business model, yeah, they're like, who cares? Like nobody cares what you do. Just pay the rent every month and don't be a nuisance, But I just remembered being so worried about that being a problem, and like, it doesn't matter, So, do research and I don't know, look at some spaces. Yeah.
Yeah, get an LLC, share with your friends, make sure you can pay for it.
Cool. So at the end of every episode, I'm going to be asking the question: if you had the world's attention for 30 seconds, what would you say? And we can start with whoever, and then we'll open it up for questions. So if you guys want to line up at this makeshift mic stand, that's cool.
About the studio?
About anything.
The whole world's listening, Nolis.
30 seconds.
What do you
The
got?
whole world.
The whole world's listening.
Get rid of one-use plastic resources. Save the world.
You got 25 more seconds.
That's all I need, man. Save the whales. Stop using one-time plastic resources. I don't know. That's tough, man. For the whole world, that's like a tough question, bro. Like, what I gotta tell the world? Nothing. I'm chilling. I don't know. Alina, you go.
Yeah.
I ain't got nothing to say to the world. Jesus Christ.
be good to each other. I mean, that's all there is.
Yeah.
NolasAnderson.com.
I was gonna say southfaceWindows.com.
Check out my website,
Book our
everybody.
studio.
Cool.
Donate $1. I'll give 90% of that back to
The whole world.
the world,
$1
back to the whole
each
world.
you.
Yeah, so that's like
That's a good plan.
a couple
Nice.
billy, right?
That's
Yeah,
like,
that's
solid.
8 trillion.
Yeah, everybody give me $1. I'll give back 90% of that to the rest of the world, to who needs it.
And whoever owns at SFW on Twitter, hit us up because we would like that account very much.
There you go.
They heard it. They had to have heard it.
Does anybody have any questions in the audience? And if you do, there's a makeshift mic right here. And if you could, give me 2 seconds. I forgot to put an SD card in here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, go ahead. And just state your name and
Oh, yeah. My name is Sam. I'm a photographer again. My question is, you guys started the studio because you used to shoot out of your loft and then you wanted to have a space to shoot at. But do you use it mainly for like your work? Or did you find that you, like income-wise, like did you find that it was a good income source? Like, was it a good supplement? And if so, like, because I know you guys have your personal brands, so does this take away from your focus from like, let's say in a month's like time, like what percentage in a month do you find yourself focusing on this, or is it like a said and done type of thing where like the systems are set and then it's like a passive type business and then you could focus on your own projects? I know it's a lot of things in one, but it's kind of like it's a venture. And do you find it like is it like very time consuming, and can you still do your own projects? And just kind of like I want to hear your thoughts on like how you guys manage that, because I know it's very personal. Everybody has their own like businesses, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as a freelancer, I'm so used to working 24/7. Like, I'm always working throughout all types of nights, or like I'm scheduling bookings whenever we get them, or we're answering emails whenever we get them, or we're texting each other at all times of the day and night, depending on like if we have questions or situations. We've had to come to the studio for like accidents and
I came for a bursted pipe once.
yeah, bursted, like the water flooded in and we've all had to come to the studio for a variety of reasons. So for me personally, I just kind of melded in with the rest of my work and my like personal business. So like as I'm checking my business emails for my photography business, I'm switching over to the studio business and I'm checking that and I'm asking questions for them. So I think it just kind of comes and goes depending on how much work we're getting. But I think over time we've kind of set it up to where it's definitely more of a free-flowing business nowadays, at least on the surface area. I know we have to handle a lot of logistics and operations like in the background, but in regards to just like the studio just kind of running, it kind of sets itself now that we have like the booking system and we have Lena to kind of help out with opening up the studio and help kind of managing bookings with the email. So I think, it's just been a lot of like delegation to either other people or just software programs to just kind of help us manage better. So yeah.
Yeah, but it's four of us, and I think every day, honestly, like it might take us a couple of minutes every day just to go through emails, reply to a couple of things. Like I'll spend a couple of minutes every day on social media seeing who tagged us and what photos I can post. I wouldn't say it like takes away from anything else. I don't know. It just feels natural that I don't see it like, oh, I have to go do studio stuff now, or it just feels like this is what I would be doing anyways. I would be like on Instagram looking for photos or something like that. So it doesn't feel like we are putting in time, but it doesn't feel like something extra or something that we wouldn't be doing otherwise. But then to answer the other part of your question, we use the studio to attract clients and to shoot personal work. So it's not just like a business for us, but it does help us get more business. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, and your other question too is it being like a source of, supplemental income. No.
Not really.
We put everything
I
back
still
in
have
business.
a day job.
We're either breaking
so-
even, or if we're a little green, we put it right back into the studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we make rent, it's like
We
a
buy
great
things,
month.
we buy equipment, but it's like if you're the only person owning a studio, you probably make more money. But because it's like
Yeah.
three of us and we're splitting things and then we're putting more back, it's like I wouldn't say we're like making money.
No,
Like,
but
it's-
but at the same time, just what we have the studios, so
Yeah.
we have
It
the
is-
opportunity to get more bookings for our own personal work.
Exactly, yeah.
So it kind of helps us on that side. But
it attracts more clients
yeah,
for us.
but in
because,
regards to just
you know,
being profitable for us individually, we basically throw everything back into the studio.
But that's up to how you want to run it. If we wanted to scale up this space and this brand, we could potentially get to a level where like that becomes one of our jobs. But I don't want that right now. And I think like I'm happy with having a place to shoot that it's able to, pay its own rent every month, and that's fine. Can we scale it up? Can we do these changes that we want to do, definitely. But that's going to require a lot of time.
More
and
active work from us,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
maybe actually like hiring someone full time to help us. So I just feel like we're not there yet as business owners. We just kind of want this to be for ourselves, to be for our community. But yeah, if we wanted to make more money, or we could have taken other steps. Yeah.
If you don't mind. For the people at home.
We need to get Brian the wireless mic set up and.
I've seen like other studios where that's like their main business, that's what they don't have a personal brand at all. So like I would just like seeing, because I saw you guys' socials and you guys have like your own personal brand. So, something to take into consideration, because right now my name is not like out there. So it's like, do I build my personal brand and then like get the studio to do work out of it? Or if I just get the studio, is that going to take all my energy and all my focus? But I see it's very like integrated, so I could see.
Yeah, and studio is a very nebulous term. It doesn't have to be a 2,300 square foot space, but there's plenty of more manageable spaces across the city that if you're an independent artist, that may be more attractive or more manageable, at where you are in your career. So I would be intimidated by a place like this.
Yeah, trying to run this by myself.
It would not work. But
I don't have time. Yeah, I wouldn't have the time. I wouldn't. Yeah, I think to answer your question, if you were trying to, for me personally, I wouldn't, with my own brand and running that as well, I don't think I would have the personal time to run this by myself without my peers.
I think we got the studio because we had 3 brands, and we were like, this is going to be good for our brand to have a studio. Yeah. So it kind of was like a backwards way of doing it. I don't know. Or whatever. Everyone does it differently. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of how we did it.
Like I'm in the position where I'm shooting on my apartment. So it's kind of like I want to get like bigger clients. And I have to like rent out studios. So it's like to get acquainted with the studio and then being the time constraint based on the budget and then how good I am at negotiating that budget and still like working that like since I'm in the beginning stages of that, it's kind of like where I'm at. And it's like, okay, do I save on like by just like renting a whole studio by myself or just renting one-offs, so.
Well, yeah, no, I was
get a friend. And
do what we did.
Do what we did. I mean,
find some friends.
Find a like-minded peer and a
Split the
trustworthy
rent.
friend, and join together and get a space like that. I think that's probably.
I mean, that's the most popular thing I keep seeing. Every time I get to know a different studio in Chicago, it's like, oh yeah, it's 5 people came together and now they run it, use it for themselves. Or here's 3 photographers. Let's say they're wedding photographers. They came together and they wanted this to be like a wedding studio or whatever. So it's like, yeah, I think it's hard to do it alone. So.
And I think eventually you can get to the point where you can do it yourself. But I think if you want to just start off and just in order just to have a space for yourself to work out of, I think that's probably one of the best ways to go about it.
All right. Well, I have 4 years in the industry, and you guys known each other for like 10 plus years. Do you have any recommendations on like building or those acquaintances? I know there's a website. I would have to like look at my phone. Like I don't know if you guys know of it, where you could like find a space to lease with other creatives in your industry. I haven't looked into it, but this
Is it
photographer.
Peerspage? No.
No, if we're talking like an actual lease, that's.
Well, I mean, the biggest
Very
thing is like
different.
it's like stuff like this,
You
getting
need-
out there,
yeah.
networking yourself with other creatives.
Like when I started photography, like Instagram was like a big thing that people met on. It was like 2015, 2016. That's how I met everyone pretty much. Like you would always have these meetups, you'd go for happy hour, and it was just like photographers just like wanted to get to know other photographers in the city. And I feel like that still exists, maybe not like directly through Instagram, but there's still like creative pockets where people want to hang out. So
Yeah,
you
there are
just have
few-
to find your own.
There are a few creative like workshop studios in the city that I feel like you could potentially just reach out to and just ask if you don't have anyone to start with
A
yourself.
photographer recommended this website, Chicago Artist Coalition. It's called like
Oh,
Space
CIC,
Finder.
yeah.
Oh, you guys know of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do a lot of like job postings and
like photo talks and
Yeah.
bringing professors and lectures and yeah, that's good to go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to see what you guys thought of it.
yeah, I think it's
That sounds like a
been
good resource. I don't know too much about it, but
Yeah.
that sounds like a good.
I haven't been there in a long time, but
Cool. I'll
Yeah.
let everybody
Yeah.
else. Thank you, guys.
Next up.
Hey, my name is Obi. I'm a photographer. I don't know, is it okay to ask like off-topic things a little bit? It was briefly mentioned by Michael about being part of like a creative agency at some point. I was trying to see maybe if anyone had some more insight on like discovering some creative agencies or maybe being discovered by them, because I know it is kind of hard to find some or be represented.
Yeah, I think well, in my experience, I worked in tech my entire career. So how I fell into doing tech in creative agencies was sort of like me sitting at my computer and Googling ad agencies in Chicago and just like sending my resume out to everybody, only to get a response from a recruiter like a year and a half later. Just like, hey, I saw this resume, randomly and got me a job that way. But so my experience is more like that was like my job, and it just happened to be, working in tech in creative agencies, so I was, I guess, discovered by, happenstance by somebody just seeing that resume and, giving me a call. But as far as like actual representation from creative agencies, or I think maybe you guys have more to say about that.
Oh, we go. Oh, you mean being repped by a creative agency? Yeah. I mean, I think that's the best way to go about it, is just kind of do some research on different agencies, either in the city or ones who rep kind of nationally or globally, and you can literally get in contact with them and you can send out your portfolio, and they'll most of the time they'll definitely respond back to you. I've had some agents from bigger agencies reach out to me, and that's another way. But I've had people reach out to me and just say, "Oh, we like you, but we don't have we already have too many photographers on our team or whatever." So I think things like that could be where I think it's just more so putting yourself out there, and just not being scared to just kind of put your portfolio out there and just showcase yourself to those different companies, and I mean, and also just maybe have a direction with what you're trying to showcase. I know a lot of younger photographers, sometimes they'll send out their portfolio and it's just like a mixture of everything, a little bit of everything. I would say maybe kind of have a bit of a direction, because then they can kind of see as like, oh, he'll be good for this specific job, or he'll be for this specific job. And a lot of times they won't hire you or they won't sign you on to their agency right away. Sometimes they'll just kind of be like a freelance thing, like, oh, let's do like a trial and see how it works. We'll help you get this opportunity. We'll see how it goes, and you guys kind of work on that relationship, and then eventually you may be able to join those kind of things. So it's a lot of different ways I think you can do it. I personally I'm not with an agency right now personally, but I've definitely had a lot of interviews and conversations with them, and it's definitely more making sure you kind of have a direction of what you do specifically. It doesn't have to be specifically portraitures or anything like that, but yeah, just having a kind of a direction in your medium, and because they tend to go for those a little bit better. So
yeah, because it's like when you show a portfolio, because I've sat down with reps before and just get destroyed, by looking at my portfolio and just shredding it to pieces, and it sucks. But it's necessary to say oh, this is your portfolio, but what are we supposed to market you for? This doesn't tell us where we can put you or what jobs or clients we can connect you with. So to Nolis's point of having a clear direction, it's really know what you're good at and what you want. I want to do athletic sports or, athletic wear or something like that, then that needs to be present, or that needs to be conveyed in the portfolio that you're showing them, because ultimately they're going to look at it and say, none of our clients match this. And that's fine. That's just not the agency that's going to rep you, if it's a more, niche thing, then, I think maybe looking at brands that you want to work with and seeing what agencies they use and reaching out to them that way. It's a lot of cold calling, cold emails, and shots in the dark, and somebody will eventually respond.
Yeah, but having a rep, it doesn't automatically mean getting work. And it's they help you. Like I had a rep recently and we went our separate way because it was just like not working out, but they like help you develop your work. So like we sat down, looked at my, website, like what is missing, like where do I want to go? What are like my top 20 ideal clients? And then we try to like work backwards. Okay, what's missing? Is beauty missing from your portfolio and you want to work for a beauty company? Okay, then put that in your portfolio. So it's like they're supposed to help you develop your portfolio a little bit better, like fill in the spots where what's missing and kind of guide you, but it does not equal. Like I was with an agent for a whole year and it, like nothing came through from their end. Like they helped me, like when clients would come to me and I would use their help, that happened, but it does not automatically mean that they will get you the work. Like they're supposed to try, or I don't, maybe some agents are more motivated than others, but it just doesn't, I talked to a lot of people that were represented. They're like, hey, I'm maybe getting one extra job a year from an agent. It's like their support system, but is it going to change your life? Maybe not. You might learn some things. I don't know. It's like, it's really, everyone's experience is mixed with that. So I wouldn't say to like completely rely on that. Just have a strong body of work.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello. My name is Derek again, creatively known as Fifth. I'm a filmmaker and a photographer as well. And a couple of my questions got answered, but I do want to kind of ask you all, coming from a person that is working 9 to 5, full-time, doing something they don't necessarily love, not passionate about, when did you all realize that you wanted to go into your creative field full-time? If there was a story behind it, or I know you've went to school for it, so it's been probably at a young age, but if you want to speak on it or anyone else, I really appreciate it.
Still got my 9 to 5.
But he loves it. He loves his 9 to 5, so that's a different story. But
I'm very passionate about my career and what I do. So like photography and creativity was never like a battle between like I'm working towards doing photo free time or full time. Like personally for me, it's just my creative outlet, and that scaled up in numerous different ways. But what I do outside of photo, I'm still very passionate about and want to continue that, career for as long as I can. So, but they have.
yeah, I mean, I always freelance. Like even as soon as I got out of college, I just got assistant jobs. I always kind of freelance, and it was bad for a while. I couldn't get any jobs. But I think like, what would I suggest? It's crazy because it's like even when I was a working photographer, there were still some clients that I was like just a photographer, not really a creative in that role, and I would still get burned out and not feel fulfilled, even though I'm doing photography. But it's like not in a way that I want to express myself, Which so basically, like you can still keep like doing photography on the side if that fulfills you, and maybe eventually kind of transfer into freelancing. But if as a freelancer you're not getting the jobs that you want, then you still wouldn't be fulfilled in a way. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Then you start doing personal projects.
Yeah, so like you always have to keep the personal balance. Like if photography is like a personal thing, or filmography right now, if you still do it as a personal project, I feel like you'll be more fulfilled until you, I don't know. Do you make films? Is that what you do?
I want to make
You wanna make films?
documentaries
Yeah.
and films, yes.
Yeah, then I guess it's just keep doing it. I don't know. Brian probably would have a good answer for that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Brian's more on the film side. No?
Yeah.
On the spot?
This is like, he's like,
I'm not being interviewed.
No, it's fine. But for me, I guess from high school, I kind of knew that I wouldn't take the, traditional route of going to college for something that's business or something. I had the idea because, your parents want you to, kind of maneuver around and do something good for yourself. But I think for me, once I realized that like having a camera in my hand made me happy, I was cool with it. Now for me, I feel like I was in a fortunate place where my parents were like behind me 100%, and that kind of helped me jump into it and be in it. Before now I'm full-time freelance. I take care of all my bills and stuff like that, but it's not easy. I think, being a freelancer, you have your ups, you have your downs. I think the one thing that's helped me though is continually being in conversation with people, and just having friends like Nolis, Alina, Michael they all hired me, and that's just based off of our relationship and our friendship here at the studio. And same with a lot of the people that are in the audience, some of my friends, Lauren, Johnny's here, he's hired me before. So like it's really about networking. And I know networking sounds cliche, but like actually having people know exactly what you do and know that you're good at it. And that helps me out a lot in my freelance journey.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I probably have the scenario I think you were referring to. Like I came out of college at pharmacy school, and right out of pharmacy school, I worked as a pharmacist for 2 years. So yeah, I was working like 12, 14 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week. It was pretty grueling. And in my mind, I was always like, oh yeah, I can do this and then also kind of use this to finance my photography on the side. But for me, and I think everybody's different. I just think with the amount of work and time I was putting into pharmacy, I didn't really have the energy to do both at the same time. I don't think I took any pictures for like a year, I think, just because I didn't have the time to just be able to just accomplish projects, or I didn't have the ability to set my schedule up to the point where, like, a lot of times at freelance it's pretty quick turnaround or pretty quick dates in regards to like shooting. I couldn't get out of work and things like that. So yeah, I didn't shoot for like a year. So that was like a tough time for me. So I think sometimes, depending on the situation, I think some things do need your full attention. I will say I probably had, I still have fun shooting and taking pictures, but I think as it being my business now and my way of living and my way of like supporting myself and like the people around me, it will take some of the fun out of it. But I think that's also you making sure that you allow yourself to have time for personal work as well. So you can do both, but like Brian said, like freelance work is tough. It's a roller coaster. It's ups and downs. Like even not even like the other month, I was just like, oh, I don't think I got a job for like the whole month almost. And then like January, I've been like loaded. So like I've been nonstop to the point where I'm like, if you can't tell, I'm a little sick because I've been working too much. So it varies. Freelance is 9 to 5s are 9 to 5s, but freelance is 24/7. It's like you're never really off the clock. I'm always working. I'm always on my email at whatever time of the night in my bed or whatever. So it's a constant grind, but if you love what you do, it's a fun grind. So,
and I'd say if you're freelancing, like always bring your best foot forward. I know some days you might not be feeling it or anything like that, but I do think every room you step in, you want people to know you for your best and not, your partial best day. And I think that helps a lot with just like being rehired for things, because you can get hired for something, but I think the ultimate goal with any client is to have them back, because the more clients you actually have at your disposal or throughout the year, even if you're only getting booked once, that's one client that you have every year for the rest of your life. So,
yeah. And do not worry about how many followers you have in the network, that type of thing. You want to go be friends with the producers. You want to go be friends with the art directors and the creative directors and the people who are in the meetings who are making these projects. Because when people are making projects and they have suggestions on if they want a videographer or a photographer, your name will hopefully be one of the ones that they can bring out in those meetings. So I always try to make that like very like a vital point to make. Like, don't worry too much about the social media, Instagram followers, stuff like that. Like you wanna be friends with the art director with 300 friends with pictures of their dog. That's who you want to be. That's your network. That's who you want to be hooked up with. Because they're good people too. They might not have like a huge following or anything like that, but they're also like super cool people. And I think you both can give each other opportunities to make successful projects together. So
they're the ones directing the $500K budget of like a shoot, and deciding who to hire for it at the end of the day.
100%.
So, producers
Thank you very
are great.
much. I appreciate it.
Yep.
You can't see
I
this.
feel like I'm at stand up.
Lauren is very tiny and she couldn't reach the microphone.
It's like, so this one time at band camp?
Yeah.
Cool. Hi, I'm Lauren. I am a photographer. I have 2 questions. The first one I want to ask y'all, you touched on it a little bit, Nolis, but like I know, Alina, you're also like full-time freelance, correct? I want to know how y'all deal with the down months when y'all aren't getting like gigs, and like how you're figuring out how to balance that in between months, and like, I don't know, just like navigating through that both emotionally and financially. So yeah.
Yeah. So I think the last month, I don't think I worked the last month. I just, worked on my website, was like, oh, maybe I'll post something on Instagram. Like, I just try to figure out kind of like what the plan is for the year, but it's like, it's a cycle. It's like, I know I'm working 7 days a week in the summer, in the spring, and in the fall, and I am trying to save that money because then there's December and like sometimes January where I'm just not working at all. Like, and it's kind of weird because sometimes I'm like, oh, I mean, I guess I'll just focus more on doing yoga every day or whatever. But it's like you kind of have to be okay with that. Or find other ways, like improve your portfolio, do a bunch of test shoots, do personal projects. But that's kind of how it is. That's our industry. Sometimes there'll be slow months and you just have to be okay with that. It took me a couple of years to kind of get okay with that and like be really good with money to like save in the summer when you're making more. And yeah, I think that's the only thing I would say.
But it's crucial because even if you're not working on a job, working on your brand is
Yeah.
still working.
Yeah, I
and
updated my
those are-
website a lot.
Yeah.
The last couple of
And you
weeks.
sent out so many emails.
Yeah, I sent
to-
out a bunch of emails just like checking in with people, like, hey, like, remember me from 2 years ago? Like, this is
Yeah.
what I did. Like,
Yeah.
this is what I've
Yeah.
been working on for the last 2 years. So it's like, yeah, because in the summer, like, I can't even keep up with my inbox. So, like, this is like the slow time to actually do the things that you don't have time to do for. So that's, yeah. I mean, it does get to you. Sometimes I'm like, oh, but it's
Yeah,
fine.
I think it's a good way just to balance work life. Yeah, sometimes you just have to. I think after a while, you just have to realize that that's just kind of how it is. It's just like ups and downs. Like sometimes of the year, it's not as much work, especially around like now, like around like Christmas, New Year's. A lot of the agencies or companies, they're all gone on holidays and they don't come back until sometimes the 2nd or 3rd week of January. so sometimes you have to be mindful and you have to be aware of that. And just keep that in mind, like back in October and November, and just make sure you're solid because you got Christmas and you got Thanksgiving and you got New Year's, so you're gonna be spending some bread. So you got to just be mindful about that kind of stuff and save up. And sometimes at the end of the fiscal year, sometimes businesses don't have enough money for a shoot, or sometimes they have enough money and throw everything at you. But it depends. Sometimes you never know. You never know. Sometimes at the end of the fiscal year, which is different than end of the year. Some companies, won't have the budget to do shoots, so you have to be aware of that as well. So, you just kind of have to be mindful of your finances and just understand that things are ups and downs. And as you say, like on your downtime, that's a good time to get some work-life balance in. I'll go to the gym. I'll work on my own like long-term personal projects that I'm working on. I'll try to get back in touch with some of my friends, family members, just to kind of keep that balance and have an understanding that it will come back and it'll get busy again. So just kind of gotta have a little bit of resolve when it comes to that kind of thing.
That's actually a good transition into my second question. So I wanted to know from all of you, because like I know, Michael, you have a 9-to-5, and then like Alina and Nolis, you're doing full-time freelance work, and some of that freelance work isn't work you want to be doing. On top of the fact that you're doing, sorry to say that, but like on top of that, you're also helping manage a studio space, right? So I'm interested in knowing like how y'all are finding time to be creative and like find that time for your personal projects, and also juggle that battle of like, I'm taking on this job, but like it's not what I'm really passionate about doing, but like it's paying the bills and or like this is what I'm doing, if that makes any sense.
I think for me, I recently, like this last year, so back in the day, it was kind of like my idea of balancing things was like, oh man, for every like gig, I want to have some type of personal thing that I'm doing, and it's absolutely no way possible for me to do that because then I would just be shooting all the time. So now this like over the last like year or so, I've been like just like, oh, I'm gonna do a long-term personal project. So kind of like every time that I feel like I'm kind of getting out of balance and I'm overworking myself, I'll just kind of jump out and get back into that long-term personal project. So that's what I've been doing. So I think that's been helping me a lot. And also just like even with gigs that I'm not super excited about, a lot of times I still find things interesting about it that I will still enjoy. Like when I'm on set, even if it's like not that interesting of a set, like I think I did like a light bulb commercial a while back. It was like a Super Bowl light bulb commercial a while back. And like it was as you can think of a commercial light bulb commercial would be. But being on set and just being able to see like the production and just like the different types of like equipment being used and stuff that I probably wouldn't see here in my studio, it just helps me. I like being on set like that because I get to learn and I get to see different things. So, when one day I'm in that position and I'm on bigger sets like that, which I have been by myself a couple times, I at least know what's going on. Like I know with the whole gels and the opals and like all of those and scrims and all. Like I know what the grip team's talking about when I'm just walking around. And the grip team are the guys, the grip team. The grip team are guys who are like doing all of the C-stands and moving the lights around and building all the stuff. I know what's going on, or if they ask me a question, I can respond to them correctly instead of saying I have no idea what you're talking about. So yeah, I think I just kind of take those as learning experience to just kind of better help myself progress, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's the same thing. Like when it's like bigger productions, I never say no to them, even though they will like not make it to my portfolio. Like I did like a random hospital thing, and I'm like, okay, this pays well. I can spend a week doing that. But it's like you just learn so much. You just see like those intense moments. Like we were shooting at a hospital that's like it's a real hospital. Things are happening. We have to like maneuver around the actual people getting treated and like doing our own thing, and then seeing how they light small rooms or seeing how they light big rooms. And to me, it's like. Sometimes I do my own lighting. So like you kind of pick up a lot of the things. So you kind of you're fine with that. And if you're curious about anything, then you can just be like, okay, this isn't a job that's going to make my portfolio, but it's like actually, and also meeting people that way. Like I've met some really great people on set that I'm like, I would have not met you otherwise. Like some really great like makeup and hair people and like DPs, and you're just like, okay, you're building like more of your network and kind of being on people's radars from there. But yeah, like not every job. I think at some point you just kind of realize, well, I'm a good photographer like technically, and sometimes you're not gonna get hired for your creativity. You're gonna get hired to execute it perfectly. So you might not always be in like, I'm creative the whole time on set. Like it's not always gonna be like that. So you just have to be fine with being like, okay, I can technically execute this the right way, the way the client wants this job done, and that's part of being a good photographer. So you have to be okay with not always being creative in a way. So I think that's fine. Yeah.
I don't know if I have much to add to that because I don't do.
Oh yeah, he just says no to anything he doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
See, I'm that
So
kind
it's
of
kind
person.
of like it's like great.
Well, I have the capability to be picky about projects. Which,
I'm more like that lately. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, just that's my situation. Like work in my career has just taken up so much of my time where it's really just that and the studio, and then whatever random project reaches out to me for something. But I mean, like I would say I haven't like picked up my camera to shoot anything for myself. And
What are you talking about? You had a shoot yesterday. That was very
well, that
cool.
was a client. That was a client shoot. I mean, it's a friend of mine, and we've shot together for,
That's
7 or
like
8
a
years.
really-
But, but I get to be creative in that sense. But I mean, like for myself, I haven't done much for myself in a long time. But it happens, like this is just where I am in my life, where this, my career takes up most of my time, and that's fine. It won't always be like that, right?
I don't know.
Cool. Thanks, y'all.
Hi guys, I'm Varia again. Hello. I actually have kind of two questions also. First one, more so Nolis and Alina. You guys mentioned Diversify Photo and your initiative for Black creatives to be able to create in your studio. It seems to me that like you guys have a heavy focus on like marginalized communities and artists that come from that. Are there any initiatives that you have in the works or any collaborations that you're excited about, or are you open to collaborating with other people to kind of foster a more like community-based initiatives of any kind in relation to this studio? I just kind of want to hear more about that.
I mean, at the moment, I mean, I feel like that's currently kind of what we got going on. I mean, just the newly quarterly meetings with the Diversify Photo teams, and then we've also been working with kind of like other nonprofits, Simple Good. We've worked with them before, and we also want them to come in and do like a workshop, like a photography workshop here. It's a nonprofit where they kind of, I don't want to destroy what their mission is, but they basically take on like younger kids in like high school or elementary school and give them opportunities to do more creative things and give them creative outsources and ways to do that they aren't really able to do. So we have a variety of things, but I think besides those, I don't think we have too much going on.
I mean, our artist in residence program is open for everyone, and then of course, like I think I want to do more like community things. I just don't know how that looks like. So if somebody comes to me with a cool idea and and it still falls within like our community that we have and maybe attracts more, I'm down to do that. Like I was talking to our studio manager and I was like, hey, let's do like yoga for creatives like once a month, and then like that will kind of maybe attract like a different type of creative or whatever. So like I don't know, we're definitely open to whatever whatever we can fit in the studio within our time frame and within our energy, because we can't just be everywhere at once. But I like what we have going on so far, but we're definitely like looking for more things.
Yeah, and I wish it were easier to find programs like that, that we can offer our space to. But if anyone listens to this and and you need a space to do something, then let's talk. So
yeah, we'll also probably be doing something with. We'll also probably be doing something at some point this year with Community Goods.
Oh, nice.
Which is a nonprofit from my friend Joe Fresh Goods. So he has a recently new nonprofit called Community Goods. So we've spoken over the last few months, and I'm sure we'll probably be doing something with them here this year as well.
If you have ideas, pitch us.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to just hit you guys up, so watch out. And then my second question is, obviously being freshly graduated or on track to graduate with a master's soon. If you could, this is the advice question. If you could go back and tell, Alina, who was working at her home studio, or Nolis, who was working as a pharmacist, and kind of go back in time and meet them, what piece of advice or something that you wish you would have known at that time, what would you say?
I think I would have just told myself, I wouldn't have told myself anything. I don't think I would have told myself anything differently, because I think, everything happens for a reason. And I feel like I'm where I am now because of pharmacy school. Like, people ask me a lot if I regret like doing it and like spending all the money I did to go to school and stuff like that. And I'm like, not necessarily, because, you never know what could have happened back then. If I would have did photography, maybe I burned myself out, or maybe I just went, or, something would have happened and I went a different route and it never worked out the way it was. Or, I might have never met Mike and Alina. It's like, you never know. So, I would just keep telling myself to just follow the course and follow what I'm passionate in, because I was passionate in both, and I think you definitely need that passion I think you need to be fully committed in order to do the pharmacy thing. And I think me trying to split it was what kind of messed that up. But I also think doing that gave me a lot of discipline and it gave me a lot of like, it just kind of helped teach me a lot about just how to handle things in the background and finances and things of that nature. So I would just keep telling myself to follow a course because it worked out well for you. I would say I'm in a good position, so I have no regrets.
Yeah, I don't have any specific regrets, but I would say that definitely going to school for me wasn't a necessity that I thought it was. I just didn't know better. Like I was the first, from my family to go to school. My parents were immigrants. I was an immigrant in the United States, and I like literally did not know how the school system here works. So I was just like, ooh, school, photography, like let's go. And then got into a bunch of loans and all that stuff. So I wouldn't like tell myself not to go to school, but maybe for something else, like maybe even if it's the same school, maybe I would do something like, I don't know, like business or like art direction, like, because I feel like especially nowadays, like you can learn photography, it's just by practicing photography. The path that I took led me here and led me to Chicago, so I'm really happy with that. But that's the one thing that I'm always like, if I only paid those loans out faster, I could afford more equipment. So it's like, you're just kind of like that, like the part that I went to school, I'm just like, well, it was different times. Like that was like, 2009? Like we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have YouTube. So you were like not really learning online. I don't know, did we? Sorry, YouTube. We didn't have creators on YouTube teaching us how to do things.
Okay.
So
Definitely didn't have that.
yeah, I don't know. It was different times, but it's not like I regret it. But it's just, I definitely wouldn't be in Chicago doing this if I didn't like leave, to come to do this. So I don't know. Just go for it, Alina. Go, Alina.
Alina, yeah. Mike, you have anything you would say to your younger self?
Go and like,
me?
I don't know.
Man, it's such a divergent, but no, I went to school for engineering and I took photo classes during, all 4 years at DePaul. And I don't think I would have done it any differently. I knew that this was a career path that I was, very passionate about and would continue to be passionate about. And photography was just that supplemental outlet, for my own creativity. And, that really, I took it really far to go all the way to, start up a studio with some friends. But, one feeds the other, so to speak. So I don't think I would, and I don't feel the need to have to choose one or the other. And I feel very fortunate to be in a position where I can still be creative and, still have my career as like a passion of mine. So I'd do it the same every time.
Oh, y'all have basically the same answer. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
So buy Bitcoin.
Cool. Let's give it up for Michael, Alina, and Nolis, everybody.